Hi everyone, welcome to today's webinar, Evolving Color Control, from Color Master to MeasureColor. Presenting today is Dan Uris, Director of Business Development. I'm Robert Grotans, the Global Experience Manager, and I'll be moderating today's webinar. If you have any questions at any time during this webinar, please feel free to submit them in the space provided. We will have time at the very end of this webinar to answer a few of your questions. Also, this webinar will be recorded and you will receive a link afterwards so that you can review this webinar again at your convenience. So with that, I will turn it over to Dan to get things started.
Thanks, Robert, and welcome everyone to this presentation regarding MeasureColor. My name's Dan Uris, and it's my privilege today to introduce you to this fantastic product. By now, you may be wondering, well, what is MeasureColor? Maybe you've heard about it, maybe you have not, but let me give you a quick introduction. MeasureColor is a software product that launched in 2009. It was built by 4 partners aspiring to make a software product to answer the needs and requests of printers and press operators. It was designed with press operators in mind and entirely shaped by customer feedback. It's a product we like to say that was built by printers for printers. Over the years, MeasureColor has been adopted by over 3,000 companies worldwide with thousands of users at these companies. Our team has developed from one single programmer to a full-time 16-employee dev team that are constantly adding and improving the platform. Given its success, MeasureColor was acquired by X-Rite in November 2024, marking the next chapter in our journey. So maybe you're wondering, well, where is MeasureColor used? MeasureColor can be used in multiple segments by multiple audiences. You can use MeasureColor to measure sheet-fed offset, web offset, paper and film flexo, digital, wide format, and more. And it's used by people in departments like pre-press or pre-media. It can be used press side, in the quality assurance process, even by brand owners. So let me quickly introduce today's agenda. So as you've been introduced to MeasureColor, I'd like to talk about why you may want to upgrade to this product. I would like to talk about some of the key features that'll help you boost your productivity. I'll then show how MeasureColor Reports provides insight and visibility into your color data. And last, we'll close by talking about how you can transition from the Color Master software you may still be using to MeasureColor. So what are some compelling reasons of why you might want to upgrade? Yeah, everybody's familiar with the product they've used a long time. Why change? Well, let's start with a look at where you might be coming from. Many of you probably recognize this screen. This is X-Rite's Color Master software. This was developed many, many years ago, and you can kind of see the age of the product and how it's been designed. So let's talk about Color Master a little bit more. So as you may be aware, Color Master is end of life, meaning it's no longer supported, meaning if you call X-Rite for help, we may not be able to help you. This poses a potential business risk. If you rely on this software to measure your production quality and it were to go down, you need to think about what that might mean for you and how that might impact your business. Color Master is also limited to older PC operating systems. If your company has made the switch to Windows 11, you wouldn't be able to continue running Color Master, again, introducing a potential business risk. Now, Color Master operates either standalone, meaning installed on a single computer in isolation, or via a much older Microsoft technology called terminal services, which is a way of sharing screens that was developed a long time ago before modern client-server architecture like we have today. As you know Color Master, you're familiar that it is a single interface for all print methods. So no matter if you're an offset printer, flexographic printer, digital printer, or other, you have to use the same type of screen no matter what. There's nothing better adapted to your workflow. It also uses older generation instruments, meaning if you want to upgrade to the latest and greatest technology, Color Master unfortunately wouldn't be able to support that. Now, one big difference between Color Master and all the other products that are out today, including MeasureColor, Color Master was a standard-based product with something called project mode. The idea of project mode was something that not everyone used, but it was a way to tie a key number of colors together. But the challenge with this was the measurements would always default back to those standards that they came from, and it was very challenging to look at something as a whole, as a job that comprised multiple colors from a particular press run. It also only reports single color data. If you have a 4-color job that you need to make a report on, you have to do that report 4 times, 1 for each color, and there's no way to tie it all together. There's also no integration to other platforms, so there's nowhere you can really go from here other than kind of staying where you are. So let's take a deeper dive into how Color Master works. If you direct your eyes through the course of my arrow to the upper left-hand corner, you'll see there's a box and there's a link in that box that says standard. This is the way most people would navigate Color Master to find the color they were looking to check. So they have to click this tiny little button in the upper left in the top of a little control window. After the proper color was selected, you would concentrate on these 2 key areas. The control column on the left would tell you the color you're working with, the sample that you're looking at, date and time of measurement, and whether it passed or failed. To the right of that, in the larger square, we see our traditional LAB plot, which we can read and try to interpret how to fix this color if it were further from target. Now up here at the top is where things got really challenging. Here we have a number of buttons that are not really labeled, we're not sure what they do, and a lot of menus. And inside these menus, people can get lost, they can make incorrect selections, potentially even change settings that affect how the color calculation is being performed, potentially making an operator think they have good measurements when in fact they do not because they changed a setting that they should not have. So now you're probably wondering, well, how is MeasureColor different from that? First and foremost, MeasureColor is future ready with its code base. It's built upon code technologies that are still at the forefront of development these days and give us a long runway ahead to continue to develop and improve the product. It's also natively a client-server architecture, meaning the way MeasureColor works, you install a server application inside your network under your control, and that's where all your color targets reside, where all your settings reside. Everything you need is centralized, meaning that wherever you connect to MeasureColor, you're sharing the same data, both for the targets you're measuring to and the measurement history you're collecting as you run. As you can see in the screenshot at the left, we built MeasureColor to be kind of like how you operate your smartphone, with modular apps supporting various print processes. A nice benefit of MeasureColor is that it supports the latest instrument from multiple brands. You can continue using the instrument you have, or you can upgrade to something new with improved technology and more capability. It's also on a job-based workflow. Now, this is in contrast to the standards-based workflow I mentioned a moment ago in Color Master. In a job-based workflow, everything is tied together, all your measurements are kept as one, and you can see how this job did today versus how the job you did a month ago, or now, and then in the future, the job you do up ahead. Very easy to compare and report your color measurement data. It also integrates with another product we have called MeasureColor Reports. I'll talk about this a little bit further in my presentation. Lastly, MeasureColor connects to multiple brand quality control programs. This way, you can focus on just using one piece of software rather than many different ones to be compliant with all the places you need your color data to go. So now you may be wondering, well, how do you go from Color Master to MeasureColor? It's actually quite easy. You can seamlessly transfer your color standards electronically from one product to the other. MeasureColor has a feature we call presets that replace Color Master projects. So if you're used to and familiar with projects, we have a very similar technology in MeasureColor that can help you continue working in that way. You can also maintain the measurement workflow that you've become accustomed to in Color Master. What I mean by that is you can measure multiple colors in any order, any frequency. You can average multiple measurements. The choice is yours. There's no requirement to read a certain number of measurements before you can see the results. There's no need to measure in a sequential order where you have to follow a particular direction. You measure as you like. As you're measuring, you see instant results. So you can know immediately, is this a color I can move on, or is this a color I need to troubleshoot? Lastly, you'll gain full job reporting capabilities in MeasureColor. This will really simplify your process of either producing a report to use internally to verify conformance or share externally with your print buyer so that they have their validation that you printed accurately. In today's presentation, we'll be looking at two key MeasureColor modules. One called Multispot, where you measure and analyze colors without color bars, and another called Image, where you actually measure color inside an image artwork. Let's begin with our Multispot module. Let me take you through some highlights of what the Multispot module does. First and foremost, it's job-based, meaning it's keeping all your data together and organized. You have presets that function like projects, so you can continue to work in the way you're used to. You'll see all your colors simultaneously, rather than having to look at one color at a time. You'll maintain that flexible measurement order and frequency so you can concentrate on the colors that you need to focus on and improve. It's also going to give you actionable guidance so that you can make live, real-time adjustments to your color while it's still in production, while you can save potential waste and downtime. Last, I'll show you how Multispot module can record visual defects of non-measurable attributes. Before we get into the module, let me introduce its capabilities. The Multispot module supports the measurement of anywhere from one color all the way up to 12 solid colors. So it's important to point out the Multispot module was intended to be an easy transition from Color Master users. So part of that ease of use is that this module focuses on solid colors and not screens, dot gains, overprints, gray balance. We'll address those in a later module, but this one is just focusing on your solids. The module gives you the ability to separate your make-ready measurements from your production. And this is really a key capability that Color Master didn't have. You're going from the ability to measure, make adjustments, and then separate that data from what you actually shipped and the data you actually want to report upon. A new thing that Color Master did not have was any kind of scoring. So the Multispot module features a dual scoring system that both displays a rate of compliance. That's a simple percentage of how many measurements you've made that are in tolerance compared to the total number of measurements made, as well as print quality level or PQL scoring, which helps you ascertain not only is this a pass or a fail, but how close is it to being perfect. Now, as you go along in Multispot, we wanted to try to emulate the way we saw operators using their software. What we would see is that they would take a number of measurements on a given pull or sheet, make some press adjustments, let the press run 10 to 15 minutes, and then do that again. We have emulated that behavior with something we call sequencing that I'll show you here in just a moment. In addition to all this, Pantone Live is supported in MeasureColor, so another big improvement from Color Master. You can also measure white ink opacity if you're printing in a flexographic process where knowing the transparency of the white ink is important to you. Finally, if you have a brand quality system where you're requested to submit data to a color cert scorecard server, the Multispot can do that as well. So let's see how it works. We begin by entering the Multispot module from our home screen, and let's create a new job. It's very simple to create a job. We simply enter a job or production order number. We can enter a job name and a job description, as well as any remarks that we like to further identify this work. We'll then press Next. Here we'll select our preset that's very similar to our Color Master project. This preset contains all the important settings I need. If I look in the upper left, I can confirm my printing condition, my tolerance set, my measurement condition, and that I'm using the right colors. If this is all correct, I'll press Finish to proceed. We're now ready to begin job measurement. we always begin with a measurement of the substrate white to enable our ChromaTrack technology that I'll be talking about later. Now, as I measure, the software is always listening, and the measurements go directly to the color that I'm measuring automatically. I could take multiple measurements of this blue before moving on to another color, and I can see if I have to make any adjustments. As I move on to another color, I didn't have to tell the software what I'm going to do. I simply start measuring that other color, like now the brown. I'll move on to the purple, and I didn't have to tell the software a thing, nor did I have to touch it. It worked automatically, detecting the colors that I was measuring and putting it on the appropriate graph. So now we're going to measure a new sequence. Again, to remind, this is as if you pull another sheet from the press, you take another sample, and now we're checking this particular piece of material. You'll notice the other measurements are hidden, so we focus on this one, and our quality is good. So we're going to go into production mode, so we record this as what we were selling. Now I can also drill down into the colors by clicking on them, and I can see how I can improve them. I can also drill down even further to see a larger visual representation or any other information about this color. List view shows you all the measurements you've made. Spot view lets you do some spot checks. Here's where you can measure your white ink opacity. So I'll measure this really quickly. And we'll see here, I'll get my opacity calculation. And finally, on our visual screen, we can mark our color registration quality, visual defects, any problems we see in the print, as well as a barcode grade. Now, these aren't attributes our Spectro can measure, but we can record these along with our color data to keep it together. So can we make it even easier than that? Yes, we can. So now I have enabled what we call automatic job setup. This is powered by your ERP system or your MIS system, sending data to MeasureColor regarding what the jobs contain. So I type in a job number, it finds the automatic job setup, and it pre-populates all the information I need without the operator having to make a keystroke. I see the colors that are going to be included, no settings that anyone can change. I simply press finish, measure my substrate. I'll automatically be taken to my screen, and now I can begin my measurement. On my first example, you saw how the screen looked for 4 colors. Now with this job, we have 7. So depending upon your screen size, the graphs will dynamically change size depending upon how many you need. And as a reminder, you can do as few as 1 or as maximum of 12. So it looks like my process colors came in okay. I'm going to now measure my extended gamut orange, green, and violet. And I'm already noticing some problems by looking in the upper right-hand corner of each box and seeing a do not proceed sign. So I want to dig in and find out what went wrong. So I can click on a color like the green, and it's telling me I should check the ink. Here on the purple or the violet, I can fix this by increasing my density. And back on the orange, again, another color I can fix by increasing density, 32 points. So behind the scenes, I was taking measurements with my exact on my press sheet, but let's take a little bit of a deeper dive to what I was showing you in that video. So here in the multi-spot screen, we see all of our colors simultaneously rather than that one single color at a time. Primarily, we look in this center section to see how the color measurements are coming in, what's passing, what's failing, what I need to pay attention to. To the right, we have something called the Sequence Info Control Panel, which is where we designate when we make new pulls or new sheets, and we want to separate this future series of measurements from the past. As we collect our data, we look in the upper right-hand corner of each color square to see if our color is passing or failing, and if it's something that we need to take a look at. If our measurements are coming in good, we can take our software from the make-ready mode into production, as well as track our quality levels using the scoring system in the upper right. So now let's take a look at this blue. I'm going to investigate what's happening here, so I can simply touch on it on my touch screen or click it with my mouse to get a detailed view of all the measurements that I've made. Now, there's one here that concerns me. This measurement over here on the right has a 336 delta E, and that is outside of my tolerance, so I have a caution sign. I look just up and to the right, and I see some guidance that MeasureColor is telling me I need to check the ink. That's the software telling me that I will not be able to easily correct this color error simply by a density or strength adjustment. I'm going to need to look other places where, perhaps the machine has contamination, maybe the ink was misformulated, maybe the wrong ink altogether was used. Whatever the case may be, the software can calculate whether it's fixable easily or will need some more assistance. For this particular sample, I can drill down even further to look at it more closely, both in an LAB style plot, a larger side-by-side comparison, as well as a data table on the right, showing me all of my L, A, B, C, H, and density values for my reference, which is my target, compared to my sample, which is what I measured, and the delta or difference between each one of these. Visually, the software can describe that to me the color is too dark and too red, and that's why it's a 336 delta E. This technology you've heard me call ChromaTrack is also illustrated in the LAB plot. We see this white line passing through the white dot. The white dot represents the measurement I made. The line indicates how the color will move in color space as I adjust density. If I look up and to the left, I can reduce density by about maybe 7 points to get a closer match, but it's still not intersecting my ellipse. This would still not be a passing measurement under my delta E tolerance of 2.5. Coming back to the list view, I can easily identify where that color that I was troubleshooting was in consideration of all my other measurements, and I can simply double click on it here to look at it. Again, it's a spot screen and a deeper view. You also saw me in the video show how you can measure or you can save the measurements of your non-measurable attributes. So these are things that the spectrophotometer can't measure. It can't measure color registration, or it can't see the image to see if there are visual defects. But these are important things that you want to keep an eye on in your print quality inspection. So this screen allows you to bring those measurements that you can either do visually or with other devices like barcode readers, along with your color measurements, so it can all be reported upon together. So in this section, we see our visual defects. I can indicate the quality of my sheet looks like a 4. I can notate that there was overimpression and pinholing. And over at the right, when I made my barcode scan, it came in as a C grade, and I notated that. Last, if you have a need to measure white ink opacity, that's built in as well. So you can take multiple measurements if you have multiple samples and make sure that your white ink opacity is remaining where you want it to be for the duration of the job. Now, all of that came from the multi-spot module. Next, let's dig into another module we call image. Briefly, let me introduce the highlights of image, and then I'll give you a demonstration. Image, just like multi-spot, is job-based, built upon presets. It shows the operator a view of the product or the image of the job so they know they're going to print the right thing, as well as it guides operators where to measure. You can also compare multiple positions, either across a sheet or across a web, and receive actionable guidance from the ChromaTrack calculation. Similarly to multi-spot, the module is capable of measuring anywhere from 1 to 12 colors, but now we've added capability. Not only can we measure solids, we can also measure screens or halftones and calculate dot gain. We can also measure other attributes like gray balance to bring that together as well. Just like multi-spot, you can separate your make ready and your production measurements. You have percentile-based scoring to see what percentage of the work is passing versus not. You can do something we call an OK sheet to retarget the job if the customer has signed off on say a slight deviation from what they initially wanted. And our image module also supports Pantone Live. Let's see how it works. Job setup in the image module is built to look very similar to multi-spot. This makes it very easy for an operator to go from one software module to the other without additional training. Having entered my job information, I'll press next. I see my presets. Now the preset shows me a picture of what I'm going to do with my inspection points and my colors and my settings. I press next, and I immediately go into measurement. The software is guiding me with its flashing crosshair where to measure. So when I take this measurement, I'll get a little green indicator, meaning the measurement was captured. As I measure through the points, the software automatically moves on from target to target so that I know where I should measure. When all targets are measured, I hit finish. The results load. Again, I see an image as well as a way to optimize my densities. So here I can see which of my areas were good, like the white as well as the purple. And I can see the areas that were not so good in the two greens. So we can now record specifically where the error is coming from and ensure that all operators across all shifts are measuring in the same locations, while all along giving you that guidance of if the work can be improved on press. As I go to measure again, a window comes up. The software guides me where to go. I'll collect my measurements, and then we'll see how this second pull compares to what I did initially. Okay, having collected all the points, go ahead and hit finish. The software will save the result, give me some optimization recommendations. And now I can see I have 4 perfectly matching color measurements that are good to go. I'm ready to take this job into production mode. Now you can move in and out of production mode as much as you need if you have variation. The software will separate make-ready measurements from production measurements no matter where they are. So let's take a deeper look. So we concentrate an image on specific locations, and this is how we get our capability of measuring things beyond just solids. So by knowing where we're going to measure, we know if we're measuring a solid or a screen or something else. So as the software guides me to collect the points, I can then show the operator where the measurements were in those specific locations and very easily identify with the delta E at each location where I need to pay attention. As I click on colors that I want to troubleshoot, I can see colors that have passing delta E but yet can be improved compared to colors that do not have passing delta E and need further inspection. Looking deeper, I can click on that individual measurement to see a larger side-by-side, to see more data in my data table, so I have a better idea of what to do. So now let's take a look at some of those key MeasureColor features and technology that enables you to really boost your productivity. First and foremost, we designed the software to be easy to use. This included making it touch optimized, so you do not need to have a mouse and keyboard cluttering the area. Everything can be done on a touchscreen. There's also user-based permissions. Everyone logs into MeasureColor with a unique username and password. This controls access, ensuring that only authorized users make changes or go into specific modules. All the MeasureColor modules have device interoperability, supporting different types of instruments. This includes 045, spherical, D0, inline, and even OEM devices built onto the press. We also utilize open file formats. These are non-proprietary formats that you can use to easily exchange data, whether that's bringing data in or sending data out. A key feature is how we're built around industry standard IT architecture. The back end, what powers MeasureColor, are 2 Microsoft technologies that are very well known by IT departments, very easy for them to administer and integrate into your environment. We also offer seamless connectivity, meaning you can integrate with brand reporting or ink formulation solutions all from one product without having to juggle multiple software solutions. We also offer broad instrument compatibility. Many devices from X-Rite built right in, but there are also devices from other manufacturers. There are third-party systems, other handheld devices, but you'll always find the latest and greatest X-Rite devices supported in MeasureColor. Now let's get back to this ChromaTrack technology just for one more look. This is such a key technology to what makes MeasureColor such a powerful addition to your process control, because it can tell you, even when your color is in tolerance, you can still improve. It's passing, but you can make it better. But what happens when it's not passing? So it's not okay, but you can fix it. In this example, a simple increase or decrease of density will take this color from failing into passing. Last, we're going to stop you from wasting time and material when you simply cannot match with an easy adjustment. We're going to tell the operator to check the ink, which does encompass many potential variables, but it does let them take that deeper look without wasting time or costing printing materials. You'll find this ChromaTrack technology in all of our modules. It's in the same location, so operators know where to find it. And if we take a closer look at it, not only does it tell us what to do, it'll tell us where it'll get us. So in the case of this example, it's telling us to decrease density by 36 points. This will take our measured density from 184 to 148. It'll take our delta E from 6.1 down to 1.6. So we can make a tremendous color improvement by a simple adjustment our operators are familiar with making. Now, maintaining your color standards is very important. So this is centralized within MeasureColor. From the centralized color management, you could share multiple libraries across multiple workstations at one location or sites across many locations. It's very easy to import or export your color targets using industry standard formats like MIF or CXF. You can individually control colors with unique delta E tolerances, densities, and dot gain targets. Lastly, you can add notes to colors to ensure proper usage, or if you want to notate a particular formulation. So you heard me mention in the beginning this other product called MeasureColor Reports. This is a way to dig deeper into your data, to get more insight and visibility to what's happening in your process across multiple runs. Again, let's take a look at the highlights. MeasureColor Reports is a web browser-based solution. This enables it to work on a PC, Mac, and even mobile devices like your phone or tablet. It gives you a live view into your current production. As measurements are made, they're getting pulled right into reports for your instantaneous review. Reports can give you scheduled reports via email. You can walk into your office on Monday morning with a report of what happened over the weekend sitting in your inbox, ready for your review. And lastly, it will give you that actionable guidance about what operators could have done to improve if an improvement were possible. Looking at the capabilities, MeasureColor Reports, the database stores calculated results, and this is stored in an open, unencrypted format. If you wish to query into the MeasureColor Reports database and extract data out for use in your own BI or business intelligence software, you can take it as deep as you'd like to go. It also works with defined user groups and privileges to control who can log in and what they can see. Reports also has the ability to connect to other external data sources if you want to pull in other data that are stored in other SQL-based databases. This is useful if you want to gather data like the temperature and the humidity of your print environment and compare that along to your color measured results. Views in reports can be customized, and they can also be custom developed, sometimes for a fee, sometimes not, depending upon the depth of the development required, but it is customizable for your best use. It also allows use of single sign-on technology. If this is something that your IT department has deployed at your company, MeasureColor Reports can be connected to it to make accessibility of the solution that much easier. Now, as I said, MeasureColor Reports tries to bring visibility to data. In this view, I'm showing the job calendar. This shows me all the jobs I've done on a weekly basis. It color codes them so I know where to pay attention. I can click on any one of these jobs to get further information, or I can simply wonder, well, why on Monday and Tuesday did I only print 2 jobs those entire days, where later in the week I printed many more? I may want to research that. You heard me mention about how the data is live. Part of MeasureColor Reports is the print room dashboard. This is a live view into the measurements as they're happening. You can see all of your production lines in one place. The view will automatically refresh. So oftentimes we see this being deployed into a quality office or a supervisor's office that they can keep an eye on their operation without having to touch the thing. Lastly, when you want to understand what's happening a little bit deeper, you can go into the ink analysis view. This first view on the left, called the radar view, shows a distribution of your measurement history and statistics. The color spread in the middle gives you a visual representation of what your delta E actually looks like. It may be one thing to understand if your delta E number is within or outside of your tolerance, but the color spread truly makes it relatable. It lets us see what's happening, observe variation in frequency, and have a much better understanding of what we're shipping to our print buyer. Last, our view on the right is a delta E to density comparison graph. This helps you identify the best color match, where it can be found at a particular density, and how much what we call printing bandwidth you have. How much density variation can you see while remaining under a particular delta E threshold? Now, this is just the beginning. I've picked 3 of my favorite views to share with you today, but there's a much more in-depth product to look at. So if you'd like to learn more, we'd like you to contact us, request more information of reports, and we can give you a personalized demo of how this product can fit into your workflow. Now you may be wondering, how can we plan a smooth transition from Color Master to MeasureColor? Well, it's very easy. Simply start by preparing your color standards, and we're happy to help if we can be of assistance. You'll want to work with your IT department to establish where the new MeasureColor software will be installed. And it's important to remind them it's always installed inside your network. None of this is running on hardware that we control where there's any kind of question around data security. You'll want to decide how many workstations will run the MeasureColor software. Will you deploy it at each press, in a quality lab, management office, or in the pre-press department? You'll also want to understand how many colors you'll want to check in any given production run. MeasureColor is offered in 3 different versions, a basic, pro, and packaging edition, to fit different needs and markets so that you only need to buy the amount of product that would particularly fit your application. Last, you'll just want to consider when and where your training should take place. This will ensure a smooth onboarding process, and we can both either train a trainer or train your press operators so they get the direct hands-on experience that we can provide. When you're ready to migrate to MeasureColor, an X-Rite application engineer will visit your site and help with that installation and training. Your color standards will be moved from one software to the other and verified and validated to make sure they're represented and measured the same way as your custom. We'll configure the software to include the setup of your tolerances, measurement conditions, ensuring a match to what you're currently using in Color Master. Operators or trainers, they'll get that hands-on classroom training over a 2 to 3 day period, and then any follow-up training that may be necessary is available remotely. So I'd really like to thank you for giving us this opportunity to share MeasureColor with you, and I hope it looks like an interesting solution to you. And I'd like to turn it back over to Robert to see if there are any questions that have come in on the webinar that I can potentially answer for you.
Thank you, Dan. Yes, we do have some time for a few questions. If you have any questions you haven't asked yet, please feel free to submit those now, and let's take a look at what's come in. So I see one here. Does MeasureColor run in the cloud?
This is a great question. MeasureColor is built with technologies that enable it to run in the cloud, but we do not host it in the cloud. And let me explain what that means. Depending upon if your company has multiple sites or a single location, you may choose to deploy our software on a cloud-based system like Microsoft Azure or Amazon AWS that makes it very easy for you to share the software across multiple facilities. But this is always under your direct control. You're installing it into your own private environment in either these 2 cloud technologies or any other one that works best for you. But always when using MeasureColor, whether you're using it on-premise or in the cloud, data is always under your control.
Okay. Next question, what are the differences between the basic, pro, and packaging editions?
Great question. We wanted to make a version of MeasureColor for everyone as to not force anyone into a particular level of product. So we've made these three editions called Basic, Pro, and Packaging, mainly separated by how many job colors you may want to measure or be capable of measuring on a given run. If you print with 4 colors or less, so those could be process colors or spot colors, but if you want to measure just 4 colors at a time, our MeasureColor Basic Edition is the right fit for you. If you need to measure more colors, up to 6, you can go to MeasureColor Pro. MeasureColor Pro also gives you the ability to measure ink zones if you're an offset printer and you want to measure multiple patches across a sheet. Last, we have MeasureColor Packaging Edition. This is our top-of-the-line product that has every feature that we have. Details on all these features are available on our website, but this version supports up to 12 colors in any given job.
Can MeasureColor do everything in Color Master?
No, it does not, and that was by design. Color Master was a fantastic product to attract and be able to operate in many different environments with many different audiences of users. That meant it had a lot of capabilities, more capabilities than typically any one user would use. This means that sometimes people might make mistakes, they may get into functions that they weren't intending and potentially impact the work that they're trying to do. So when we designed MeasureColor, we specifically designed it in a way that it only did what you told us it needed to do. So it does not do everything Color Master does, but it does do everything that our customers have told us that they need their operators to be able to do a successful process control of their work.
I see another Color Master question here, so I'll read this one as well. What if I want to keep using Color Master?
I understand. It's certainly, people don't usually like change, and you're very familiar with Color Master, and I can understand you may want to use that product just as long as possible. And that is possible as long as computer technology stays compatible with it. What I mean is you're typically running Color Master on older generation computers with older generation operating systems, and it's become a top priority of IT departments to ensure good security in their computer network. This entails always installing security patches at anywhere that there is a desktop or server operating system, just to ensure there are no vulnerabilities in their network. To support all of these security patches, it's not possible to do in an older product. So if you want to continue using Color Master, you would have to decide not to be up to date with the latest operating system, the latest security patches, which potentially might expose you to some risk or some interruption potentially to the business. But the product itself, if it were able to live in its own environment forever, will never turn off on you. But now is a great time to look at moving on to something like MeasureColor while you still have access to the Color Master system and while its data can take part in a migration.
We have time for a few more questions. Let's see. How does the licensing work?
Our licensing, like our data, is hosted from your local server, meaning if you buy 5 copies of MeasureColor, 5 licenses will sit on your server until they're needed. As your users open the software and log in, a license will be checked out from the server, and that'll be held as long as the software is open. But what this enables you to do is install MeasureColor on as many computers as you like and use them simultaneously as the number of licenses you've purchased. So you can install it, use it in all different areas, but only buy the number of licenses that you need. You can do that initially. You can add on additional licenses later. You can migrate between different product versions as your need changes. But all of those capabilities centralized to your server, managed and distributed automatically.
How does MeasureColor handle both 045 and spherical instruments?
So you heard me in the presentation mention many different device geometry types. So 045, spherical, there are others like D0 that we also support. And when you measure these colors in these unique geometries, you get a unique result that should not be compared to a measurement of another geometry. So MeasureColor will protect you by knowing what geometry device made your measurement standard, so what you're targeting, as well as what measurement device you're using to take your sample or trial measurements. This way, you can ensure that the right device is always used for the right color and that there's no potential chance that an operator measures a job that's intended for one type of measurement with an incompatible instrument. MeasureColor will stop them, it will inform them of the incompatibility, and you will not have any risk of bad data or inaccurate data coming into your system.
Are the Pantone libraries included with MeasureColor?
The master standards are included. This is one of the great parts of joining the X-Rite family is we now have more capability to integrate more X-Rite technologies into the MeasureColor suite of products, Pantone Live being one of the first that we did. So we improved this to include better access and direct access to the master standards, which are now included at no additional charge with MeasureColor. Now you can always purchase an additional Pantone Live subscription to get access to dependent libraries if your print buyer is asking you to measure against those. But the master standards are now built in.
Is there an extra cost for MeasureColor reports?
Good question. As a separate product, reports is an additional purchase. It can be bundled together with MeasureColor at the time of your initial purchase if you have both products appeal to you immediately. But we separated them intentionally so that people who didn't need the capability of reports wouldn't have to buy it, as well as giving you the capability of adding it on later. So it is an additional cost that is a very reasonable cost, and it's one that you can add either at your initial purchase or later on as an upgrade.
We will do one final question. Let me see. Can I use MeasureColor across multiple locations?
You can. So if you have this need, this is something we would want to talk to your IT department simply to ensure there was connectivity between the two sites. Generally speaking, when a company has multiple locations, they connect their networks over what we call a wide area network. This allows you to connect to different computer systems across the multiple sites. And MeasureColor is built on technology that plugs right into that network architecture. So if you have connectivity to your multiple locations, there's nothing stopping you from sharing either one MeasureColor server amongst multiple facilities or multiple MeasureColor licenses across multiple facilities. Your MeasureColor server can act as a license host and distribute those licenses across all the potential workstations that are connected or able to reach that MeasureColor server.
Great, thank you. This is all we have time for today, so this will wrap up the end of today's webinar. If we didn't get to your question, we will do our best to follow up with you. We hope everyone found this discussion useful. Before you leave, I do want to remind everyone that we will also follow up with a recording to this webinar. And finally, immediately after this webinar has concluded, we will pop up a poll question. If you are interested in speaking to someone, feel free to answer that and we will be happy to connect you with an expert. So once again, I just want to say thank you everyone for joining and have a great rest of your day. And I won't actually disconnect us because since I have to edit this anyways. So that's the recording. I noted 3 edits, so it shouldn't be too bad, but I think that went pretty good. That
Yeah,
wasn't
sorry about
bad.
that. If we were doing this
No,
live, I would have rolled with it better.
yeah,
But
sure.
it's hard knowing it's recorded to not just say, let's get it right.
No, it's fine. I think I can make this pretty easily. Thank you. I appreciate it. I only skipped one question just because of time. I think you pretty much covered it when you like talked about licensing. I think that's pretty much implied the subscription ones, but yeah, I think we're good.
I purposely left that out. I
Okay.
thought about saying it and
Yeah.
I caught myself just
Okay.
because I don't want to shoo the webinar into a corner. So
Yeah. Yeah.
while we will only sell it as subscription, again, that can also be something that turns people off. So let them find out
Yeah.
later after they've connected to us. Uh,
Yeah.
but I did keep that out on purpose just for that
Gotcha.
reason.
Yeah. So, um, yeah, I think we're good. Um, so I'll edit that and then we'll make that on demand.
Corinne, are you still with us?
You're on mute, Corinne. She was talking. I heard her. She's still here. She'll unmute herself, hopefully here. But she's still on mute. Just we can't hear you. She's trying to talk. Hold on.
Okay, no problem. We can also meet on Teams if that's easier.
Hold on. I think she's figuring it out. No. Oh. Um. Jordan, you're okay with everything, right? I can just let him know. Okay. Sorry, no, I can. We're sitting next to each other. She's okay with everything. I don't think there's anything else that we need to talk about. So yeah. Thanks for everything. We're good. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
tell her I'm gonna yell over to her. I'm gonna call her in Teams really quick once we exit
Oh,
out.
okay. Okay. I'll let him know. Dan's gonna call you on Teams really quick. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you, Robert. I appreciate it.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. No problem. Bye.
Bye.